The One Piece! The One Piece is real!
Can we get much higher? So high.
It's a great day here at KekCast, your One Piece TCG podcast. Irregularly, I have with me today Zell and Dr. Giuliano. We'll get into some introductions soon, but I first wanted to just kind of unload. We're in OP10, but we only have it for about another month, right? A really short time for a meta, even shorter time for a ban list meta, right? And I just wanted to open up with that because this is the most. I felt like after the ban list, there was going to be a little bit more form of creativity, but it even seems a little bit more one-sided, just to being like a couple decks being on top than just playing Gecko Moria and Jinbeis and such. So what are you guys' thoughts on EB10 so far, or OP10? Yeah.
I was actually dreading this set. It looked like boring and awful and uninteresting, and I'm pretty locked into Nami for OP11. So I was kind of checked out, but then at locals, everybody is basically playing as if the ban list is already in effect, and locals has been so much fun. Last round was literally me on Buggy versus my friend on Limb. So I feel like there's a lot of diversity and opportunity right now going on.
Yeah, I think I'm of two minds. I think this is a great time to be, like jumping into the game because I think the meta is so wide. I think for competitive players who are like preparing for the next set of regionals that are happening, I think this set is quite painful. I think because I think a lot of the sort of I can't call them established top decks, but like the decks that people are looking at as being like the most powerful are very inconsistent, and so I think it leads to a lot of games where it just kind of feels like it comes down to who stumbles first, and I think from a competitive standpoint, that's kind of frustrating. But I think if you're just coming into the game, it's like really fun right now because again, the meta is so wide open and like kind of anything can win on its day. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think locals, like it's kind of funny. Like locals is really, really fun right now. You can do a lot of crazy stuff.
Yes.
And regionals, like trying to win serial cards, it feels frustrating just because every deck's very inconsistent. Any good deck worth its salt, because Reiju and Doflamingo are still consistent decks, but can they fight Shanks against one Rayleigh? Because one Rayleigh just beat these decks, right? So.
Yeah, it's a weird meta.
Yeah, I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like Shanks is my least favorite deck to play against. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but I just have no enjoyment in that matchup.
Yeah. I have a thing I call Shanks. I call it the 9-5 deck. If I lose to somebody who plays Shanks, I said I lost somebody who has a 9-5, right? And because most people have a 9-5, they don't have any time to practice at all. They play Shanks, but even like really good players are playing Shanks because it's just really powerful right now.
Yeah, I think Shanks as a deck is just like card for card. It's one of the most like powerful decks in the format right now. And so again, when we talk about consistency, like a lot of times when you're playing against Shanks, you're just kind of praying that they don't have something, right? And it creates a lot of binary states in the game of like, do they have it? Do they not have it? If they don't have it, I win. If they don't have it, or if they do have it, I lose. So like, it's not very, and like from the Shanks point of view too, like you're kind of like, I play the thing on curve. I play the thing on curve. I play the thing on curve. Did I win? So I think it doesn't feel like the most skill testing at times. I do think I'm kind of dramatizing it a little bit, but I think like I think the level of lines and plays in Shanks are just a little bit reduced compared to some of the other decks that we've seen be at the top. So
yeah, I think that's fair. It's actually
I definitely feel like I have no agency in that matchup. Sometimes it's like they drew everything on curve, or I played against a buddy. He had 9 cards in hand. They were all 2K counters.
Yeah.
If
if you were to hit Shanks, and like now we're making our own card game. Okay, if you were to hit Shanks only for this meta, okay, and only one card. I want you to think about that. Well, what would it be? Other than Shanks, the leader himself. The main thing is I have people I talk to a lot right now. They're just like, hey, are you considering Shanks? You considering this? And they're like, I will not touch Shanks or Bonnie because those decks are too inconsistent. I have to win a 9-round tournament. I'm okay losing a couple games. I don't want to. They don't even want to lose a single game to chance, like just by not drawing what they need to see. So,
oh man, if I was making a card game, I don't think I could ever touch Shanks. Like Shanks is like such a unproblematic deck in my opinion. In the broad sense, it's just like the stuff around it is because it's kind of, again, like I was saying before, it's just card for card really powerful. And so if you're saying that like other decks don't have the required synergies that are more powerful than just the individual cards that that Shanks plays, I think there's a problem with the game itself, not Shanks the leader. So if I was going to hit Shanks, like you can point at any number of cards and they would all be very impactful because again, Shanks is just like you want to play things on curve. So if you took out Rayleigh, suddenly their second curve is just like horrible because now they're reduced to just like hoping to play one of their 7 drops rather than an 8 drop. Or like I just think like you could hit any card in Shanks and just like reduce its power generally, but yeah, I just if I was deciding the card game, I wouldn't touch Shanks.
Yeah, I agree.
My card of choice, this is just an irrational hatred, but Lucky Roo. I hate that card. That card pisses me off so much. It feels so bad when they play that on 4 Dawn, and then it's like I have to get multiple swings in because you're gonna -1 to one of my guys, but then Lucky Roo just kills it, and I don't even know how often Shanks is running that card anymore, but that card just pisses me off so much. It may be irrational, but I absolutely despise that card.
Yeah, I it's really funny because that card at first was really, really good, but because Doflamingo was playing Law, it just made that card useless. But now that people don't play as much Dofi, the card actually it gets away with like destroying purple Luffy, any non-meta deck, right? Any like super, actually any deck. It's
actually just so good right now. It's actually so like Bonnie can't swing anymore because they don't want they're trying to establish like Tashigi or something, and then you play Lucky Roo and now they can't swing because they need to keep Tashigi around. Like Lucky Roo is a really annoying card and very, very good right now.
Yeah. The deck already has so many defensive capabilities, just a leader skill, right? So is Lucky Roo restrictive to Shanks, or can it be played in any red deck?
Any red hair Pirates leader, I think, but at the moment I think it's just Shanks.
Okay, I just didn't know if like you can play that in like ST21 Luffy. Like, does anyone?
No.
Or Zoro.
I'm gonna look this up.
You're just looking it up. Okay.
One of my buddies, he built red hair Pirates Zoro, and he had Lucky Roo in there, and then like mid-game I was playing against him, and then he realized the Lucky Roo is leader locked, and he had like, oh shit, I'm dumb, I lose moment.
He just had a 4/5 blocker. Still, to be honest, not bad. Not a bad card. Right? That's interesting. Okay, got it. Well, let's go into introductions, and then I'll want to go into maybe some deck lists, what you guys are thinking about. I know most time people just listen to this as a podcast, so I'll let you know when to actually watch, right? This might make sense, but first I want to introduce Zell. Zell, welcome to the channel. Zell has a nice YouTube channel, Zell TCG. His quality is actually pretty high level. It just doesn't post too often, right? But
yeah, I'm trying to post more frequently, but it's tough. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I think a lot of people know me from my days at doing content with League of Legends or offline TV, but these days I've made it to the retiring home of TCGs, and now I play a lot of One Piece. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
And then Dr. Giuliano.
Hello, I am Dr. Giuliano. That is a real title. I have a PhD. I'm a professor, but I also really love playing One Piece. I used to be competitive with Nami, won my serial and top nats with her, but I'm basically retired from professional play at this point. But I do run the off-meta Discord for all the weird, jank leaders that don't get love anywhere else, and so that's where you can find me now.
The best retired player there is. Okay.
Damn straight.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'll have the link to your Discord there. I post and see content in there all the time, right? Especially when it comes to any future deck builds. It's kind of funny. I actually go there all the time when I'm looking for like a deck build that's like of a new deck, and they posted it months ago, right? So have you already been looking at OP11 Nami? Is that like your big
Oh,
crunch or
oh yeah, yeah. Forever Nami simp, but she just means so much to me in this card game, and so new Nami leader. The only problem though is that I will not be playing her competitively because she absolutely folds to blue purple Luffy. It's like a 1090 matchup or something like that, and if it ends up being a tier 0 format like some people are saying, I don't want to competitively play like a deck that instantly loses to the tier 0 in the game. But I'm all in on Nami. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to be grinding her out as long as I can.
I'd like to talk about that later about that format because I know we just hit this ban list, and then actually let's talk about the ban list a little bit. With the ban list, right? We ended up seeing 3 or 4 cards get removed, right? And which being Gecko Moria, Jinbei, the Yellow Red Rock, Kingdom
So
Come,
sad.
and Ice Age, right? And it's kind of strange. I think most players were hoping they would hit like the Eastern format more than likely because it was already a tier 0 format with green purple Luffy. With something, I don't know, Gum Gum Giant, or I don't know. I say Nine Mom as like a weird balance, but I wonder if they're going to do another ban list at some point before OP11, because OP11 is probably going to be a very long summer format, right? And being a tier 0 format in that time, you're just going to be seeing only Luffy decks, either color, right? So I'm not sure how fun that's going to be for a lot of people competitively. Awful.
Yeah. I think I haven't looked too much into OP11, and I don't know how much interplay there is between like blue purple like mirrors, because like so I mean, this is my hot take, but I don't mind tier 0 formats as long as the games are interesting and complex. And so like I really didn't mind Sakazuki when it was around because like I thought the mirrors were really interesting in skill testing. And to a certain extent, I also felt that way with the Dofi meta as well. But I think what's interesting about the bans is it was very like designed for the current Western sets and not really for the East side. And it does make me think like they will probably have to again revisit the bans list yet again. And it's interesting because like when you look at the bans that they did, those were all decks that were kind of making their way out anyways. Like by the time EB rolls around, like there's quite a few decks that do quite well into Doflamingo. In fact, even in OP10, like Usopp was considered like one of the leaders to pick for the OP10 meta because of its great matchup into Doflamingo. And suddenly Doflamingo's gone, and now there's not a lot of reason to play Usopp when everyone's like playing Shanks, which is like one of your worst matchups. So I think like it feels a little short-sighted to me, but that's just my personal take about it. Like at least in the short term, we get to have our own like fresh meta, and I do always really enjoy like when we get to have our own discovery period. I think that's always really important in card games, and like that's why I'm most excited about the 2026 announcement of like the conjoined releases. Like I think that will be a really fun time. But as of right now, as it stands with where we're at right now, like the bans, I'm like, okay, well, I guess we just have to do this for a month before everything changes yet again. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. You brought up a good point. In 2026, I assume it's actually going to be like April, like literally April next year, or maybe even August next year, right? We're going to be getting whatever that meta is at the time, and it's all going to be together. So that we'll actually have a discovery period together, right? We're not just piggybacking off the East, but in that same record, right? Every year they actually do a ban list every 6 months, even though like the one in the 6 months seems like an emergency ban list, right? They did it with actually with the Whitebeard stage back in 2023. In 2024 they did it with
and Kabaji.
Yeah, and Kabaji, yep. And Red Purple Luffy, or Red Purple Law, that was also done. So I feel like they're going to be hitting something in 6 months from now, right? And by then, it's already going to be too late for Blue Purple, right?
It's a weird thing. Like if you're to compare it to other games, like I know Flesh and Blood has their own kind of unique ban system, which I don't think necessarily One Piece should copy, but like Magic the Gathering, I think they do. They just have scheduled sort of like
Rotation.
bans and restrictions time periods that they just say, even if we're not touching anything, this is just like a time and place that like bans and restrictions could happen.
Yeah.
And I think something like that would be like very helpful for One Piece players so they don't feel as blindsided, because those are also like the times for the devs to reach out to community and be like, hey, these are cards that we're obviously taking a look at. And so like, because I think like when these sort of when the bans and mysteries are bans and restrictions are such mysteries to the player base, like it just causes a lot of tension, right? Like I'm sure a lot of people were on the wrong end of like buying into a deck and then it being immediately banned. I think there was like a Reddit post I saw where the guy was like, hey guys, I just built my first black yellow Luffy deck, what do you guys think? And then a week later it's banned, and then they they reposted that old post and they're like, okay, looking for a new deck, and that sucks, right? I think that sucks for new players in general. And like again, I wish there was that kind of like communication between the devs and the community over like what is on their sort of watch list. I think that would be super helpful. I think 6 months is way too long considering how fast this game releases.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We've been kind of like blessed by other gaming companies like League or even Blizzard, where they could just update it every 2 weeks. It's called a balance patch, right?
Yeah.
But you can't exactly do that with physical cardboard, right? As easily. And I don't want it to be a digital card game, to be honest. I want this to stay a physical card game as much as I can, right? But
yeah, and like I think on the opposite spectrum, if you touch the game too much, you never actually let the meta like evolve. And like to speak to like the current meta, I actually think this meta could end up becoming very interesting. I guess we can talk about when we get to the deck list and stuff, but like I can see how this meta might do like a cyclical like thing around certain leaders, as like certain leaders get better in the meta and then there's like this ebb and flow. And like I think it's always interesting when the meta is kind of ever evolving rather than being stagnant. But the problem is that we only have a month and we only have one set of big tournaments in this time period, so there won't be like enough time for this meta to really like mature and get to like a stabilizing point. So it's a little unfortunate for us, but yeah.
State of the game it feels like we're in right now, between the the start of EBO2 and OP10, it kind of reminds me of that 4.5 format we had, where they just kind of like killed Whitebeard because they're like, oh, we've tried banning a bunch of different things and this is just not working. Like we can get rid of like Rad Beam for God's sake and like Marcos, and this is still just not doing it. And that was like a really cool month, but it was just kind of like random, like people trying different things, and it didn't feel like any like solid format was actually developing. It was just people, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. And so it's kind of weird, but like I feel like this isn't even like a real format in a way, because we're just kind of like rolling off of like whatever happens for a month. And I just feel like there's not enough time for something like a stable, like maybe even like a triangle format or something like that, something stable to actually develop.
Sure, yeah. And the top two decks compared to that meta, right? The top two decks right now, people would say is fairly boring. Like Bonnie and Shanks. Most people that play those decks will just tell you, yeah, I was pretty bored playing today. So maybe that's what people's thoughts is. I don't know. Back in 4.5, what was even good? Katakuri? Right?
Katakuri, Film Kid was like the other deck that was doing well.
Queen was still a deck.
Queen.
Yeah, Queen.
Yep. Queen. Rebecca kind of started to like make a comeback too, and everything like that, if I recall.
Yeah, and then the ST trial deck came out, which was cool for a few weeks too. That was like one real tournament for that. With like no one really dabbled too much in that Luffy, right? It was mostly like Europe, right? But the
they
Luffy,
had a couple of tops.
Yeah, but I think they were all playing it, so I don't know.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of half formats too, like that. There was the other one around when RP Law and Uta took over the meta for a hot second with Moria, when they banned the Sokka leader, I think it was, with the reject stuff. There was also that little half meta.
Yeah, I was playing Yamato at the time, and it was just like RP Law, and BY Luffy was actually still fairly good at the time too.
Yeah.
So, but Gecko was like undisputed most consistent king. So, yeah, some things never change. With that, I wanted to go over some of the more deck lists that I saw from this last weekend. This is only from the regionals that were in TAK. I'm assuming that's Australia. TAK.
Yeah, this is Australia pre-ban. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, 465 players.
Oceania is weird.
It is weird. Some people call it a fake region, but it's real enough.
I agree.
They're real enough to me. Yeah.
Oh, those are my favorite results to like look at, because like every now and then you'll see like, oh, a VV made top 16 or something like that, and it's like, oh wow, like I'm really interested.
Well,
okay.
Well, I feel like they weren't playing all the right decks back then. I remember they were like Boa was topping. Like, why would Boa top? Lucci's a deck that exists. They just weren't playing enough Lucci.
I mean, their tournaments generally are always like quite a bit smaller than like the other regions, so it's just higher variance. You know, sometimes you just dodge all the Luccis that day, and your VV deck pops off.
You ever think like if you moved to Australia, could you just like top? You know, could you just like be rich? You know? And then you go. People actually go there and they lose, and they're like, oh. People do that when they used to have it open. You sign up, you just walk up. A lot of the people from like the Malaysia regions or those Eastern ones, they always went there. They had to put a ban saying you had to be from the region they prioritized first only, and then if there is time, you can get in. It deterred a lot of people from trying to just fly there and get in, right?
Yeah. I imagine like for the region, like in a smaller region, I imagine that like the best players are still very, very good. It's just like maybe the drop off at the top, 16 players to the next, top 64 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like maybe the skill level isn't quite there yet compared to other regions.
I mean, Australia is a big place. There's not a lot of people that live in Australia, but apparently it's a very expensive to travel in Australia, right? And
interesting.
I wish I did more webcam. I don't even know if they have webcam events for Australians only, because apparently it's extremely expensive just to travel in Australia. So
that makes a lot of sense.
But with that, let's jump into this one first. Bonnie, I believe Bonnie got first place. And I think the real kind of red alert is that there's 4 Zoros. I've seen a lot of decks that run 0 Zoros, swearing by that it doesn't need Zoro. But it seems to be like kind of an auto win for a lot of the decks.
Yeah, I mean, Zoro is like the Bonnie answer to Blackbeard. So if you're thinking like Blackbeard's going to be one of the major decks, then you really want to get those Zoros. And I'm surprised because like I imagine pre-ban there's going to be a lot of Dofis. So having 4 Zoros that can potentially rot in your hand seems very scary. But yeah, I mean, I guess it worked out for them. I don't know how many Blackbeards they played, but yeah, that's the card that you really want.
I think there was like if this is the same one I'm thinking of, I looked at the topping list earlier, and I think there was like a good amount of Blackbearded. Oh, okay, never mind.
This is top 16. It was mostly Dofi and Blackbeard. I think they actually beat a Blackbeard in the finals.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right on spot. Like you're surprised because it is pre-ban. There is still mostly Dofi running around. So I am also quite shocked, but it's kind of weird, this deck, because sometimes you don't even like play Bonnie Searcher. You just play down blockers. It doesn't matter how annoying they are about bouncing your cards. These damn 5 costs just sit on the field and just become a menace. Right.
Yeah. And looking at this list too, what I was going to say was looking at this list. I mean, this is why Bonnie players will also complain about the state of the game for them too, is like, look at how many things are actually unsearchable. Like before you ran the Doflamingo package, so like one half of your deck was searchable, and then the Supernova half, but like Zoro is unsearchable, Hody is unsearchable, Smoker is unsearchable, Film Shanks is unsearchable, Carrot is unsearchable, Tashig is unsearchable, Rosinante is unsearchable. You're just praying to raw draw into everything except the kids, which you have the searchers for, which is just absolutely insane to me.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Doctor?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like even if you go against Dofi, like Kid does a pretty good job just walling out Dofi a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so I feel like between like the Kid and the Zoro, you know, like the Kid kind of covers your Dofi spread and the Zoro covers your Blackbeard spread. And from there, you know, if that's like what you're seeing most of the time, like you kind of got your bases covered.
Yeah. Next, the Blackbeard who got second place, right? I'd say a very standard list, not a bunch of trigger cards. The Shiryu IMO seems to be like a card people play a ton of now because of how much Bonnie there is. That just
that card is so good into like everything, right? Like kills it against Dofi, kills Teach, against Bonnie, kills Tashigi, against Zoro, kills any 3-drop they play. You know, like they're gonna play a 3-drop, it kills it. And then if they play another one later down the road, you can always pitch one, bring it back with Kuzan, do the same thing. You know, like it's just so good.
And Laboons are gone now from this. There are still a lot of decks that still want to play Laboon for reasons, right? I even still might be on Laboon on my Blackbeard deck, but I don't know what else to say about this. It's very standard. I think Blackbeard, funny enough, people are finding it to be like the most consistent deck, right?
Oh, it's so, I mean, entire deck is searchable off stage.
Yeah.
But I have my Alt Art Laboon playset, so like I still want to make the card work in the deck, but I think this list is just so consistent.
Yeah, the Laboon engine is still super good, and I've actually even considered keeping Laboon and dropping Van Augur. I find myself I never play him. Like it's just he costs too much Dawn. Like
yeah, he's slow. I think the other consideration for Laboon. So it's fun. Okay, so talking again about the meta, like the top tiers, like I think a lot of people right now would agree that like Shanks, Bonnie, and like maybe Zoro are in that top echelon. The decks that are underneath them are pretty powerful, but way more consistent. So like I think Blackbeard and then like Purple Luffy are in that tier of like next powerful decks, and they're just so consistent. And like if Purple Luffy gets really popular, like you absolutely need Laboons in your deck to keep up with like the five cost spam they do. So like I think Teaches right now can get away with not playing Laboons because like Shiryu just does so much work against the 3 costs that people are playing. But when we get if Purple Luffy makes a big resurgence, like this deck list that we see right now like doesn't do particularly that well into Purple Luffy in my opinion. So
yeah. Actually, that's one thing I miss about Blue Dofi. Blue Dofi just eats that deck alive. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The next deck list is actually it's just like top 16. It's the only one. People call it Piss Kid. I just still call it Yellow Kid. The kind of the interesting thing is they're playing 4 Gadatsu. I'm actually curious if in some matchups, like against Bonnie, if they're actually not attacking at all and just hoping to Gadatsu any 5 costs or less, as long as they don't Hody Jones. Hody Jones just, eats that plan alive. But
I wonder if the Gadatsu is just to like still take care of Dofi while he's still hopping around.
Yeah, probably. Dofi, Zoros, those fast decks.
Yeah.
Right? Because the problem is we don't have a promo. It's a law. It's like a 4 cost 5k 2k counter law. Too. And he has trigger and he basically just has Supernova as a type, right? So you can put him in your life with this law. And you just can't play him because it doesn't. I don't even know if that card's being planned to give it out as a promo soon. Probably LP11.
We'll get it in 7 months.
Yeah, kind of like the Buggy promo. Like the Buggy promo. By the way, small sidebar. Okay, the Buggy promo. If that was here, like in the beginning of OP09, I think you would have saw far less Dofi, and I think that actually would have made it so Blackbeard was far more playable. You would see a lot more Blackbeard at the top end, even though Buggy's good.
The thing with Buggy though,
well,
I guess Buggy does kind of like. If Buggy knocks out the Dofi, I love that promo. I've been playing so much Buggy. That card is so stupid fun. And, it's got the foot fetish thing going on too, which is kind of weird. But that card is so stupid fun. And it would knock out the Dofis, but Buggy also just stomps Blackbeard like 9 out of 10 times. So, I would have been eating so well as a Buggy player last set if we had that promo.
What does it struggle against? Shanks?
I actually find the Shanks matchup isn't that bad because you get to go very wide and very very aggressive and just get like a lot of swings off. And then By the time they're dropping their 10 drop Shanks, you're in a good spot to like play down the 10 drop Buggy off of leader ability to bottom deck the 10 drop Shanks. You basically just negated their turn for 5 Dawn, and you're getting the 12k on board.
Yeah.
And so Buggy gets stomped by purple Luffy.
Oh.
It's miserable. And yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad. But I'm on the Buggy cope train right now. That's my thing. So I actually think, like, aside from purple Luffy, Buggy has a really good matchup spread right now.
Okay. I was just curious, like in OP09, I feel like people, if they had like a chance to just auto lose to you don't ever auto lose to a Buggy when you're playing Blue Dofi, but playing a matchup where they just see a 7 drop, I now have to play weirder cards in order to beat the 7 drop, right? Like either Mihawk or Red Rock, and that's not even like a guaranteed good thing to do, right? So just like a sidebar thought, because it was so prevalent in OP9, right? But I'm gonna jump back right onto this, right? So Yellow Kid seems fine in this, especially if there's gonna be a lot of Dofi, right? In Australia, this seems like a very Australian deck list, that would top Australia, to be honest. And I think the only problem that Kid has is actually Bonnie. Bonnie does well into most of the top decks except for Bonnie. From what I've heard. So
interesting. Yeah, I can imagine Bonnie. If your whole leader's ability is to create blockers, like Bonnie does quite well into stuff like that. So
yeah. So okay. The next deck list is just really Shanks. It seems to be just whatever was going on here. There's so many deck lists out there for Shanks right now. He's running this chopper and not the other chopper.
Interesting.
Huh. I mean, this card
that new
annoying.
Rush Luffy is so impressive.
Yeah,
I love this card. This card is like definitely one of the most impactful cards I think we'll see.
Especially like early to mid game, you're not killing that with swinging into Shanks. Like it's just so much pressure and so much value.
Yeah, you have to like swing 10 into it, and that's like too hard to do, right?
Yeah, and he has like cute little synergies with Yasop and Newgate. You're just able to like keep putting that free Dawn onto Yasop, and then Yasop swings, put something into range of Newgate. I love that little trio combo for Shanks.
Okay. Is this card propelling basically all red decks right now? Like even
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think like Zoro, like the synergy is obvious. You swing with him, give the Dawn to your leader. Now, like you don't have to, spend a Dawn onto your leader. Like that Luffy is an insanely good red card. Probably like, yeah, just that card and Mulgun are just like almost guarantees in every red deck right now.
Okay. Got it. Other than that, the rest of the decks pretty standard. Some are playing Divine Departure. I'm surprised it's not playing Mulgun, but we're not seeing a whole ton of Bonnie yet, right? Which is probably everyone's new favorite card. Even players that I know that like main Bonnie, they're switching off of it just to play Mulgun. Anything with Mulgun, it's better for them.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
I think this list is kind of interesting. Just it feels like they went because I've been seeing some Shanks lists that run Nami Searcher, because now with the new Luffy, the 5-cost Luffy, and then if you're playing Red Hawks, like you have quite a few Straw Hat cards that you're actually actively trying to search for. And the 2020 Chopper. So like surprising that they didn't go the route of having any searchers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, sometimes searchers feel really awkward because like you're just wasting a Dawn sometimes, in Shanks specifically, right?
Yeah,
because especially in
there's so many good high end you bottom deck.
Yeah. And then finally, Ploofy. There are it's kind of funny. Ploofy has to actually tech more for its mirror than any other deck, right? Because they don't want to lose a dice roll. They'll always want to go first. But like they're finding themselves playing cards like Magellan, just in case they face the mirror and they have to go second. Just more 5 drops. That's usually what's going to win them most games. It's actually, I'm almost finding the situation where playing Ploofy, going second actually feels just fine. Like you actually don't even hate it, just because you have so many good 5-drop plays that you can go to your 7 or 8 Dawn turn doing something completely insane, especially if you present it with a kid. I guess with Lucci being gone, like setting up is just broken now, right? In a lot of these decks.
Yeah, it's funny. Purple Luffy players in SoCal were testing out the go second Purple Luffy list because like it's generally accepted, right, that you when you win die roll against Luffy, you take first, and so you prey on that knowledge, and then you create your whole deck list around going second and just ramping to 9 costs as fast as humanly possible. And I none of us like committed to that bit to a regional, but I could see that being really good because you know.
Is it the Quinby list with like the Rosinante, or is that like a whole different list?
It's it plays like a lot of the 5 cost rampers, so it plays like the Miss All Sunday and stuff. The idea being like you take second, you go to 5 Dawn with your leader ability, you ramp up to 6, and then you get to 8 Dawn, take another life, you're at 9 Dawn. So you play like 4 of the 9 moms, 4 of the big Luffy's, and you're just trying to get there as fast as humanly possible and stick a big body on board. So yeah, it was an interesting list, but yeah, no one it was funny because then my friend brought that to a locals, but then people were still taking second from him anyways, and then he was like, you know what, I don't like this. Why are people taking second from me?
yeah because I think it's actually a lot of decks just like going second right now, right? Except for this deck, and so you'd even like sometimes let it go. Right? So yeah, okay. I mean, that's all the deck lists I actually had. We don't have like any post-ban results other than like a few other little tournaments that have been going around. I actually did Blue Dofi last night, and Blue Dofi is consistent as it is. It just doesn't have that spark going for it right now, especially just with Shanks. If I can't high roll against Shanks, they have to low roll and I have to high roll. So I don't even think I want to try it anymore. And then there's a lot of Zoros. I'll tell you that around.
We have a lot of Bello Buddy now.
Yeah, Bello Betty is getting popular. Yeah, I don't know. This meta is very okay. Like, I have a lot of thoughts on the current meta just because, like, we've just been cooking a lot of stuff in the SoCal local scene, and like, people are pretty high up on Boa at the moment too. Boa having like a very positive matchup into Shanks is like one of the big reasons to play it. And even though the Bonnie matchup isn't as auto win as it used to be, like it's still good into Bonnie. Like so much of the meta right now is just like dealing with 8 cost Kid and Shanks. And if your deck can do those two things, like you're in a pretty good spot. Dofi definitely took a, I always thought that Jinbei wasn't actually the central piece that was needed in that deck, but against the decks that are trying to control against you, in the late game, I realized like one of the lines that I would normally play with Dofi is like at the end game, you use leader ability, you bring out the Jinbei rested, but the Jinbei brings out something that's relevant unrested, which means like the turn after you're always able to get 2 swings in, and so not having that makes Doflamingo a lot harder to finish out games with.
The tempo is relevant, right? It is relevant. I didn't think it was as relevant because a lot of times as Blue Dofi, I'd actually not call Jinbei the first turn. I might call it the second turn, just so I don't have to deal. It's harder for them to deal with a 6K body, most opponents, right? So in that regard, but it's a little strange. But I wanted to go over Zoro because I think a lot of people are just straight up pivoting to decks like Zoro, Bello Betty. Maybe I can put them both in the same camp, even though they both play very differently.
Yes.
But it's kind of that checkmate where it's actually people are trying slower decks like Blackbeard or decks like Boa, and they end up playing against Zoro or Bello Betty instead when they actually do their testing, and they just lose, and they just like, I'm just gonna go back to these other decks because like I don't know how. At least Bello Betty struggles into both Shanks and Bonnie. So
yeah,
it's kind of a weird thing. Why would I play a deck that struggles into both the top 2 most played decks, right? Other than to beat
Bello Betty. the problem with Bella Betty is that it just doesn't naturally want to play Mole Gun, and like the lists are really tight as is for Bella Betty.
Yeah.
But you have access to Mole Gun, so I'm kind of curious if like the Bella Betty chefs are going to figure out a way to like make that feel okay in the deck list, because there was a little bit of talk about this online too, about just ACOS Kid in general, and it's like ACOS Kid was at its best when it wasn't at the forefront of the meta, because there's actually just so many cards that actively deal with the card. So like, you know, people are going to be packing Gamma Knife, people are going to be packing Mole Gun, people are just going to figure out like tech cards that are specifically good against it, and so
I feel like Bella Betty, it struggles less with Kid, it struggles more with just Bonnie leader skill. Like
like
it's just Bonnie leader skill. If Bonnie had no leader skill, the deck would still be not bad, right? It's just the Bonnie leader skill is just the extra crazy thing. Why even decks like right now, red purple Luffy is actually
oh my god, that's so bad.
It dominates Shanks. It can struggle against any good Bonnie player. Right, it actually it's probably impossible to win against a really good Bonnie player, right? But if you place against like an average one, you're probably gonna skill diff them. You can probably skill diff them as RP Luffy, maybe like, but
yeah, that matchup is miserable.
But it's really funny because like I just if there's like no Bonnies, like RP Luffy's like really good, and Shanks like it Shanks can't beat it most of the time in that regard. So
I played against Bonnie once on RP Luffy at locals, and I think that was like one of the most depressing games of One Piece I ever played. Like I even like first life hit the ramp trigger. It was something like third turn, already had like 10 Dawn, and I just still like couldn't break through.
Yeah. That's about right. Pay 1, rest your 10 cost, please. That's
it's like
I kind of maybe that leader's skill is over to turn. What if it was like rest like a 6 cost or less? Like, you know, like
it would still be insane. That leader skill is just absurdly powerful.
It's absurdly powerful. Yeah.
Especially with the smoker now, just giving you banish and restaining that Dawn. It feels so bad to play against that deck sometimes.
There's that other deck that you bring up. Now we're bringing up the other deck. You just bring up Smoker the card, but Smoker the deck, the green red Smoker, right? People say it's inconsistent. I don't know. Have you guys like done any testing with this? Like everyone's afraid to actually put out a full guide without like saying it's bad, right? So
yeah, I have a couple buddies that are really grinding it out right now, and they're figuring out how you play it. I think just like people watch that like one match from Japan where the smoker kind of like walled out the green purple Luffy in the finals, and they kind of took from that like, oh, you wall up and you kind of stall out. But the more my friends are playing it and testing it, and you know they're talking with other players as well, they're realizing like that the point of the deck is to be very aggressive, but you kind of like have the kid for another turn or two, just to kind of like give you an extra breathing room to beat down your opponent. And so I think people are gonna, once people learn how to properly pilot the deck, I think it's gonna be a lot better. But you know, there still are those inconsistency issues with you know not being able to search out Hody or Kid with the current packages, and those seem really critical in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the actual other red green leader, red green Law. Was an insanely aggressive deck, right? And this one should be the exact same as far as aggression goes, but it's kind of weird when they debut stuff in Japan. People do the opposite, right? When people used to play Control Law, I used to laugh at them like, "Why would you do that? Just kill me in like 4 turns, bro. You could kill me now." But okay, that's interesting. Has there been anything for you, Zell, on Red Green Law? Or sorry,
for a smoker? Yeah, I think people are just kind of figuring the deck out. It's definitely a different flavor of deck than Bonnie, even though they play a lot of the same package. I think kind of the core issue is, again, the kids are like the way you survive that extra bit of pressure because you're a 4-life leader in order to like because like once you get that chain going of like Tashigi, Smoker, which is all searchable with the Virgo searcher, so you get those pieces pretty frequently. But then it's like, okay, you're putting all in this pressure, but if they decide to put that pressure back, like it gets really tricky if you don't have the kid. They play that the igloo event and some other ways to like stall out people's pressure, but like sometimes you just die because you don't see the right card. So I think the deck is good. I think so as this meta may develop, like I think if Blackbeard comes back more into play, like Smoker has a more positive matchup into Blackbeard than like Bonnie does. So that could be a major reason why you would want to play Smoker rather than Bonnie. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems a lot of weird decks beat Smoker. I mean, beat Blackbeard, which is odd, right?
Yeah, like Blackbeard really wants like a really contained meta, so it's like he's always just going to be waiting off in the sidelines, right? He's like waiting for his time to strike on the meta. Like once like the Zoros get tired of being walled out by all the other decks that are trying to kill Zoro, once people don't play like I don't know, Buggy or something other, these other decks that just like monsterize you. You're just like, okay,
once it's I mean, that's the same thing with Usopp. Usopp was actually really, really good into specifically Lucci, Blackbeard, and I can't remember the other deck. Oh, the Blue Doflamingo, right? Yeah. Actually, if you're in a controlled environment where you only have those 3 decks, Usopp's just going to reign supreme, right? But against a lot of these tall decks, it's a little too hard, and so people have already like jumped in and off of Usopp as well.
Poor Usopp. I mean, like. It's funny you brought up Lucci because I do think Lucci people are underrating him right now. Yeah. Even if Lucci comes back into the meta, it just doesn't stop like Usopp from just constantly seeing his worst matchup in Shanks or like Bonnie or whatever. So it's tough.
Yeah.
I think there's I have no real justification for this, but I feel like there's got to be some like weird Usopp list out there that nobody's played around with that actually goes crazy. I have no justification for that, but somebody in my Discord has been crushing it at locals running the 10 cost Kuzan from OP2.
Okay.
And he's been going like 4-0 consistently with it. So I don't know, but I feel like there's some like weird Usopp spice out there that nobody's figured out yet. For the new meta.
Got it, yeah. Tenko's Kuzan fixes a lot of removal decks' issue, which is just -5. Which actually brings up like Lucci. I don't think Lucci even try that, but it's usually Smoker that people are trying out. And I don't know if Smoker is very consistent or good in general, but it gets around a lot of Tashigi just gets around a lot of bullshit, right? Because it trashes it and then minuses. Generally a good card, right? Like the Luffy, but I'm unsure if it will actually make a dent at all because it's just Gecko Moria was pretty good. Actually, I think Ice Age is a bigger hit to Smoker than Gecko Moria.
For sure, than to Lucci.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, but that's maybe Tenko's Kuzan is like an answer. But until then,
Tenko's Kuzan, my only thing with the card is like it's probably like you want that minus effect most for like the tall decks. Like it'll be great against Bonnie, since they don't have a direct answer without you swinging with it. But like if the Shanks player just plays 10-drop Shanks after the pop Shanks after you play the 10-drop Kuzan, you just want to end it all. So
you just swoop. Just leave.
You're just like, okay,
are a lot of people playing Pop Shanks? Is that like a very common card now? Okay, like
very
every
common
Shanks
card
is
in
playing
Shanks
now
right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think like some of the people I've been talking to have been trying out like Isho in that like 8-drop spot. Isho, you kind of get that like minus effects still, and the right now I think like a lot of decks are having big hands, right? And so like if the Bonnie player is trying to set up their kid and taking hits or whatever, like it's very easy for the Isho effect to be live, and then once Isho sticks, then like it's open season, right, for removal. So I've been seeing more of that. And then I think like for Lucci in particular, like everyone knows they like the 9-cost Kaido, but I think it's also the return of like Stussy as a card too. If you don't have Ice Age, like Stussy is like one of the great ways to, you know, remove a big body. So I think we'll see some of that as well. But I don't know. I mean, as long as Lucci isn't popular, like I've been playing Zoro lately, so I'm very happy that Lucci isn't back. But once it does come back, like Zoro might just evaporate.
I wanted to do a couple honorable mentions and maybe a couple decks to set as before we, you know, ended up here on this little discussion, is actually because most people are going to be playing locals or even like their local tournaments for like case tournaments is going to be a big time in April, I think, actually, because there isn't too many tournaments in April other than Pasadena and the one on the East Coast, Virginia, right?
Yeah.
But Robin, people are doing this Robin build with just the Kaido Lin that they think is the most fun thing ever.
That looks so much fun. Oh my god, I want to build that.
I have a local. They saw the video. They found it in my Discord, but Real Joshua found that list in my Discord and was like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. Made a video on it. Video blew up, and now everybody wants to play this. So if you go to your local, they'll play 10 games and they won't even get it off once, right? Like it's not possible. I've seen people double gum mole it. Like, I'm just gonna let you just kill me, right? Things like that are just so funny that they ends up happening. Where at my locals, they actually ended up playing the mirror. They forced it. They're like, okay, on the stream, we're gonna play the mirror. You know what happened? They just rushed each other. They didn't even get a chance to play Kaido Lin, like to do like any kind of combo at all. So it's a funny deck. Have you guys seen that at all, like in your local, or wanted to mess around with it?
My local is very sweaty, so I feel like we don't see that kind of stuff. But I think more of that should exist in the game. Like I love that, you know, people have like put that together, and like just coming from Magic the Gathering, like a lot of these kind of like goofy, off meta, weird combo decks like exist, and I feel like One Piece, like if we had more of that, I'd be happier.
Oh, we have a very goofy locals now, so we get all the weird stuff, like super weird. You know, like you'll get paired up against Reiju, and you're like, all right, cool. And then they play the Who's Who Animal Kingdom Searcher, and you're like, oh, okay, I have no clue what's about to happen right now. And then it's like, oh, I just got stomped by Animal Kingdom Pirates Reiju because I had no clue what the hell to expect.
Yeah. Also, your honorable mentions, as we're saying, Buggy is here. It's a deck now because it has a 7-drop all of a sudden. I'll let you talk more about that because you've been kind of cooking that more.
I've been coping Buggy hard. I bought the manga Buggy playset, so like I'm all in on Buggy for the next month or so. The 7-drop Buggy promo is just, it's a godsend for that deck. I mean, for 2 reasons. First off, it just shuts down so many decks. First round, I got paired against, you know, my really good buddy there, who's like a dedicated Bello Betty player. And then it's like, well, all of your characters are 3 and 4 costs. So like, I hope you find like the 2 dragons you run, because you're not swinging with anything else for the rest of the game. So that, and also just being able to play the Mihawk blocker off of the Buggy, you know, it's just so good. And the second part about the Buggy promo, aside from like, you know, just shutting down certain decks, is that it just makes the deck so much more consistent for board flood, so that you can reliably put down the 10-drop Buggy with leader effect. Because the problem with the deck before was you basically needed to see the crocodile that cheats out another cross-guild character on your like 5 and 7 Dawn turn, if you wanted to play the Buggy down on your like 9 Dawn turn. And so now just having 8 cards in the deck that play out another body make it so much more consistent to slam down the Buggy and have it stick on your 9 Dawn turn. And if that happens, it is just such an impressive tempo swing in your favor that, you know, the game will just completely snowball from there.
Yeah, I remember people before were playing Ivankov package, so they can play a 7-drop into like a 5-drop or 6-drop, right?
Yeah.
In order to like sometimes get because the 10-drop was just like a bad red rock. I like to cope. I cope a lot of weird decks. Like I'm
I was like an iceberg main for a while. Was almost took him to Nats, but the impel down buggy build that's like even too much for me. Like just wait for us to get the promo. We'll eventually get it, and we did. Thank God.
Yeah. One deck that's been resurfacing, Marco. Right. It kind of it has built-in minus, so it has board control. Quite often, I don't really know what this deck really loses to, other than just the fact that Shanks is just annoying, right? I guess it loses to if you're a little too fast, right? But the in process board control, where you just like literally kill anything on board with your leader skill by minusing it if it's rested, it's fairly good, right? People are coping of it a little bit in OP11, but I don't look at those lists just because blue purple Luffy's a thing, but it's
unfortunately.
Yeah, but at least it's still something that may exist today.
Yeah, I've been I just think one of these Whitebeard based red leaders can be good. Like I just feel like I've been trying to cook up a red ace list because like you have access to a lot of cards that are just really good, I think, right now. Like Flame Emperor cleanly deals with an unprotected 8-cost kid. You have access to ways to like clear out weenies with like Fire Fist. You have the rush package for Blackbeard. Like I just think like the toolbox that Whitebeard red cards have, there's a lot of good stuff in there, so I feel like there's something there, but yeah.
Also, as we were mentioning earlier, Boa Hancock, right? There are a couple deck lists out there. That's actually the kind of the problem they're running into, is they never get to use the leader skill, to be honest, because they just have too many cards in hand. They're even playing cards like that little 1-drop snake, like a 1-drop snake that increases your leader by 2k power, right?
Yeah.
And so they're playing those just so they can get their hand small enough so they can draw. But that's a leader that's been going around. I know Sean at your locals is like a really big person into that leader, as well as I am. But I don't know why I stopped coping it. To be honest, it's kind of a
Sean's boa is famous around these parts. He's had quite a bit of success recently with the deck. So
people were actually also considering Foxy post ban, but ended up just not doing what it needed to do against the meta decks, right?
I feel like Foxy's like major strength was that it did have a good Dofi matchup, and if Dofi goes out, then it's like, oh, like this one like weird niche meme application just goes away for the deck.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But is there any other like leaders that we're thinking about that like, even for fun, hee hee ha ha moments like this set?
I think there could be a very good limb player that gets rewarded right now. I don't know if that's Cope, but at the last locals I went to, it was me versus my buddy on limb in the finals, and he was putting a lot of work into that deck. And when that deck goes off now, it is absolutely insane. Plus the new limb card that lets you restand characters, it basically negates the downside of the leader ability. And with the there's so much like draw and advantage now with the there's like the Enel, which is gross, the Newgate, the Mihawk, a lot of limb support. The problem though with that deck is that like if you don't go first, you lose. So that may be a very big downfall of it. But when that deck goes off, it's actually wild.
There's like no chance even in meta matchups if they go second they win. Like
it is so bad if you go second.
Going second usually just opens up people's windows to deal with the Zoro better, because like a lot of the purpose of your deck is just to get there as soon as possible. You're so like normally with Lim, you're going one. If you go first, you go from 1 Dawn to 3 Dawn, ramp 4 Dawn. Next turn you're at 6, and then the optimal curve is playing the 3-cost Lim plus ramp again, use leader ability, and then you get to 9 very cleanly. But the problem is when you're going second, rather than getting to that 9 Dawn, there's that weird spot where you're at 8 Dawn and you can't do anything efficiently there. And like that's like that was always the part. And like if your opponent has like a lot of aggression going into you, you're just like you just feel so handicapped at that point. So I've been playing a lot of Lim recently too, because I'm a Lim.
Okay.
Yeah, like if Shanks is a little less popular, like I think Lim is super good. It's super good into Zoro. The new gate is just like just absolutely crushes the aggro matchups. And then 9 cost Zoro just like destroys like white Blackbeard, and then I mean just a lot of decks, honestly. Like if they're trying to stick behind a kid, you know, like you could just swing a bunch of times into the kid at like 12k, like it's dying. So
I mean, an early Zoro is too hard to deal with, like for any deck, right? So it's kind of just a win now card. It feels like than anything, especially in that.
The list I'm running is also running the Law Searcher to find more of them. So like even against like decks like Boa that have access to Red Rock, well, I'm probably gonna find more Zoros than you find Red Rock. So I will get there eventually. And then once they run out of Red Rocks, like the Boa runs out of ways to deal with it, and then you just kill them. So yeah, I think I'm a believer in Lim. I think it's a deck that can definitely do well at a big regional. It's remarkably consistent because you have so many ways to draw cards. The Sabo that draws a card on attack does a really good impression of like Sangoro.
It's impressive, I'm trying to think if you like actually took this like to Las Vegas. Well, that's gonna be OP11. Never mind. Take this to Pasadena. You know, like you have to just win every dice roll, and if you lose a dice roll, you have to hope your opponent chooses second. Like, it sounds so funny.
So there's also that like meme. I don't want to say meme factor, but I doubt many people will be practicing against Lim going into this, and you just get such a good information game. The first time I played against Lim at locals, like I was blindsided. I was like, I don't know what to expect. Like I didn't realize there was a Mihawk that restood a character, for instance. And so just like big information asymmetry if you're playing Lim, that's in your advantage.
Okay. Got it, but at least if they're listening to this right now, they know. If you face a Lim, go first, okay? So
always.
Yeah, that's the cast buff. And Buggy go first always?
Yeah, because you want to use your leader ability immediately on 5 Dawn. So if you play against Buggy, automatically take first. I don't care what your curve is. You will screw over Buggy.
Okay. One deck I'm looking at too, and shout out to Renee, is Reiju. Reiju, super good, super consistent. It plays a card that minuses Gaima Knife, so -5, so it has answers to that. I don't know if it really can deal with Shanks. However, it's kind of a weird deck where a lot of people they might fold to it because it actually is consistent and plays out like a lot of bodies really quickly with a Porsche.
I know Jansuko also from our locals has been messing around with Reiju as well. And so I know there's a couple players that are messing around with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of Jansuko, also Green Yellow Law.
Yeah. But I know he was looking at this, at least he's to build it. And I have a feeling he doesn't like Shanks anymore. I think he was really big on the Shanks train for a little while. And now he's not going to play Bonnie. We know that, right? No. I feel like if he was to go to regional, he's going to bring this or bring probably Reiju, right?
Yeah, he did win our crossing locals last week with Green Yellow Law. But the deck really suffers against 8-cost Kid. So we'll see. I think that's one of the reasons why he looked at Reiju, because Gamma Knife is just so good in Reiju. So
yeah, it's a deck I'm considering just because of that. Plus, it throws a lot of people off that factor. And I'm trying to think, maybe the deck isn't as consistent as I remember. There's a lot of cards that make it consistent, but it's kind of one of those decks that it has a lot of moving parts, but you're just doing that to do like a whole lot of nothing. Like just to play out one card and draw 2 cards.
That's the Reiju experience where you're like taking 10 game actions a second, but then all you did was play a 4/5 and draw 3 cards. Yeah,
I do think, however, this is one of those decks actually really good for beginner players, either cost wise or learning how to play the game vanilla. Right? Like I know there's a lot of actions going on. Right? They have to like learn how those things work, but it at least gets you to the point where you're not just you're at least going to learn how the game's played by just playing a body and swinging with the body, right? and countering out and doing math like for lethal. Maybe.
I think that deck is super hard personally, but
Really? Okay.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild statement. Yeah.
A lot of people play this deck because it's cheap.
I just give them Zoro.
Well, a lot of people play this deck because
super
it's cheap.
Oh,
like,
cheap. Sure, yeah.
That's why. And so it's like, well, if they can kind of grasp this thing, but I feel like Zoro is even more complicated because it loses a lot of wrong ways, right? But there is no dang. Is there like an actual beginner friendly deck that like isn't just booty? Like, is it just Luffy?
Yeah, just ram play bodies. Yeah.
Shanks?
Oh, Luffy is also great.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, Pluffy and Shanks.
I feel like if someone was playing Shanks, they might be like, "Oh, this game's too easy. I'm not gonna play it anymore." You know, like they might just
when their first local ended on top. You know, they're like, "Oh, this game's too easy."
Yeah, potentially. Definitely not Blackbeard. That's actually kind of funny. A lot of newer players, they just can't play Blackbeard because they have no idea what any other deck does at all. So they don't know when to use leader skill, and they just get punished. But if you're just like a good player, like you just know what every card in the game is, you know, or know what every deck does, like all of a sudden you're like, oh, this game's like a floodgate deck. I don't have to know anything. Like,
yeah. I also think I think Katakuri is a good learning deck because when I had one of my buddies like learn the game, I just like gave them Katakuri, and it's like swing, like play things, like play a body, swing big, triggers are cool, 10 mom, and you know.
Okay. Yeah.
That's also a deck that destroys Shanks, by the way. That's like
oh yeah, it's so much fun.
How's it against Bonnie? Is it like okay? Like just
not as great.
80-20.
Kid is tricky.
80-20.
Kid shuts off that deck.
Okay, but against Shanks, that's good. A deck that beats Shanks is good for me. So
yeah. I'm just excited to see how this meta shapes, you know, like I think like these first set of regionals I couldn't get into Pasadena unfortunately, so won't be competing, but I'm curious.
Are you gonna be at the waitlist there at all?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be at the event. I'm gonna show up and like do side events and whatnot. I've never gotten in on waitlist because it's never worked out for me.
I mean, actually, before we I will talk about tournaments. Actually, I have a big conversation. Tournaments. Okay. Tournaments, structuring, side events, main event, right? I feel like One Piece Day showed us that running multiple tournaments is a great way to do any event, right? If you've ever done like a 1,000 man tournament, you have to essentially go X1 for any real significant prizing, or even with good tiebreakers, right? Or even to make top cut. X2, you're like most likely not going to make top cut if they even have a top cut, right? And also running 10 rounds, for some reason, organizers just hate 10. Like it's too exhausting to run 10 rounds for them. With that 9-round mark of 512 players, being like the top 64 out of 512 players, 32, isn't the worst, isn't the hardest, right? But people feel kind of rewarded even if they end up like with some bad luck, right? They can like still go X and 3 with good tiebreakers and like still get some decent prizing back where they don't feel as bad. Where if you go X2 in a 10-round tournament, you actually just feel awful if you don't make top 32. Like you just feel there's more feel goods when the tournament's smaller and there's more tournaments, I suppose, than these bigger tournaments.
I went X3 at a 1,000-person tournament, and I was doing so good, and then I actually, this is like on me. Well, I'm not a piece of shit. I know some people are here, but I did something I shouldn't have done, and I accidentally called the judge on myself to like rat me out, even though my opponent didn't catch it, and that like judge ruling ended up like fucking me over pretty bad. But But I got X3 and like it just like it shot me down to like mid hundreds. It felt so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone who's gone to a bunch of regionals have been on the bubble before, and that's always feels bad.
Yeah. It's so bad.
I think my thoughts on it is like I really like Top Cut is the only thing.
Sure.
I think Top Cut is just like a really really great competitive thing to have. So I'm kind of two minds because like I think that the One Piece Day format is like really nice just to get like a bunch of players into the game and like to try out like their first regional and like you know, I think it's like really good for them. From the competitive side of things, I just love Top Cut events.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
What if there was a mix? More tournaments, like instead of one 1,000-man tournament, it could be two 500-man tournaments with two Top Cuts.
I mean, in general, I just want more events. That would be sick, right? Like, more events, please, Bandai.
Yeah, I had like an idea. I was talking with someone about. I think everyone has these like pitch brain ideas they just throw at their friends. Like, oh, what if they did this? What if they did that? And it's basically just copying other card games. They just have a much larger Top Cut. Like, no matter what, if you're X2 or X3, you make Top Cut, right? And then you just do a Top Cut from there. So that's like the biggest, that's like a problem people have is tiebreakers, especially online, because tiebreakers, like most people just like literally drop right away. You expect every point to like almost drop as soon as you beat them, like no matter what your standing is. Even like in later rounds, especially if you're like X2 already. But in in-person regionals, losing because of tiebreakers feels a little weird because most of the time everyone was still trying or in the event, right? And like not making Top Cut. And so I feel like if you were just like X and 2 or X and 3, whatever that might be, if there's like a larger Top Cut, I know like some events, like if you're X2, X3, you get X amount of prizing, you're already in Top Cut already. And that might be some kind of interesting model that they obviously won't change. I don't think they're going to change at all, at least not within the next like year, right? But it would be interesting if there was a model where they did that.
Yeah,
my only Top Cut experience was the first Nats. That's the only regional I played or tournament I played where there was Top Cut, and that was just such a horribly run event. And having to go back in there the next day just kind of like completely soiled me on Top Cut. They even lost my ID and blamed it on me, and
Wait,
yeah.
You lost your physical ID?
They because like the way it was at Nats is like you put your ID in the deck box and then so they can verify it's you, and then I get my deck box back and there was no ID in there, and I'm like, guys, like I'm sorry, like I can't play this game, I don't have my ID. And they're like, no, we gave it back to you. And they were like yelling at me for losing my ID, and then some dude 2 tables down goes, wait a second, my ID's not in here either. And so they're like, oh, we'll go look. And they're like, oh, sorry, we left it on some tables like over there. And I'm like, wait, you just left my ID on a table?
God.
Like, oh my God. So that's my only Top Cut experience. So I'm biased in that one.
Biased that one.
Top Cut at Mesquite was fine for me. It didn't happen. So I hopefully just the TOs just get better, right? Like I think I think for the One Piece events, like not to throw anyone under the bus, but there's definitely some better TOs and worse TOs. And I think it's just one of those things where like a lot of the tournament experience could just be done better. And I that's just I don't know why it happens this way, but like certain organizers are just known for running like shoddy events where things happen. Like that Nats was truly one of the worst experiences I've ever had playing card games, and like
oh my god.
Yeah, so I'm with you there, and yeah, I don't know. So I
will give it
that gets fixed.
For the last 2 Nats, September and January, the actual Nats was ran beautifully. The actual tournament. Yeah. The only problem was side events are abysmally awful to do. And that's actually the next thing. Because I know we're talking about tournaments. I will talk about side events for a moment. Because this is actually most people's experience. Anybody can go walk up and sign up for a side event, right? Even though it's actually can be actually kind of hard to get into a side event now, which is, I don't know why, right? It used to be very simple. Just walk up and like scan a barcode and pay them money. But now it's like you have to like sign up with your Bandai ID and then physically pay them money, not with like a scan and like pay with Apple Pay. And it's like they've made it harder recently, and you have to like almost wait in a line for hours. You have to wait like 6 hours to play 4 games, in my experience. The last 2 Nats.
That is not worth it.
Yeah. I at One Piece Day, because I was waitlisted one of the days, I didn't get in, and I was like, okay, I'll do side events. Waited in line for side events. Side events filled up. Like there was like a bunch of things that was annoying. It was like if they know how much like people how many side events they can run, they should be able to just count it out and then be like, hey guys, you and past here, like you guys aren't going to make it into a side event, so you don't have to wait here anymore. But you know what's funny is that they did that for the waitlist itself for the main event, and then they still had hundreds of spots open in some of the regionals. So like it was just like kind of baffling to me that like on day one of the event, like they stopped the wait list after a number of people, and then the event still had a bunch of spots remaining. So they just like miscounted that.
Oh, wait,
and
the
so
first day didn't have, it wasn't all filled up, A, B, and C?
it was not all filled up. It was not filled.
That's wild.
I heard Pod A had like dozens, if not
free.
like 100. Yeah, like it was just like a bunch of spots left in Pod A, and so it's just like so again, I don't blame necessarily the system. It's like the TOs, right? Like the TOs should be able to organize this better. Like the system can work. It's just like needs to be executed better.
It needs to be someone's job to run side events. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny. I wish we can just give them more money because I feel like they don't like money with the way it's being treated. Like, because it's kind of insane how much money they can make off of just side events alone, right? And if it was like coordinated barely better from like, I'm talking if like someone who works at say your local, right, whoever owns your local shop or whatever, they could probably literally go and just like host an insane like side event, everything, right? And it would be like clean, right?
There's like so many issues, to be honest, with these regional events. Like I still have no idea for like One Piece Day, why didn't they have any seating for people who aren't playing in the main event or side events? Like, why was everybody just on the concrete floor playing friendlies, like on the floor because there was no other space to play? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, people came here to play a card game, and you're not giving them space to play a card game. Like, I mean, I don't know if
there was
the TO's
plenty of
fault there.
space in the back of the tournament area. There was tables.
Yeah. So again, it's just one of these things. I have a lot of gripes with how the in-person events are run, and I hope they get better at them. I know for some of the TOs, this is like their first time really TOing, so hopefully it gets better. But yeah, I'm annoyed.
I'm
done with regionals. I'm kind of I had that phase, and I'm like I don't want to put up with that anymore.
Okay.
You know, God bless the people that are. I love the grind, but it's just not for me anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately I just like I just want to keep grinding the game, but yeah, it's tough, and the only thing that keeps me in it is the camaraderie between like my play group, going in and like having fun. And like, you know, some of the best times are like after the tournament, you go dinner, you drink, and like that's the best part of the whole experience. And like, if not for that, I couldn't see myself grinding this game. And I guess last thing that I want to talk about with tournaments is like, I wish they would explore other tournament formats that are more fun, like fun based, like not just 1v1. Like I think 3v3s are like some of the most fun I've had in One Piece, and I think like they should have more sanctioned 3v3 events. That would be my last tournament take.
My only other tournament take is I'm in Massachusetts, and there is nothing here. We have to drive to Canada to be able to get in. And then I was detained at the Canadian border for a day going to one regional. That was also wild. So one of my buddies owns a card shop, and he brought 20 grand in cash to like buy stuff, and we got randomly searched, and he didn't declare the 20 grand. And then I had stupid CBD pouches that I bought from Cumberland Farms gas station and they're like, oh, so you have 20 grand in cash and you're smuggling drugs across the border? Like, this is going to be a real problem. And so I don't like having to go to other countries to play trading card games now. And the closest is literally like a 14 hour drive to Virginia.
It's kind of funny like that too. A lot of people either they have to spend an insane amount of time and money to travel, right? Which it doesn't. Even if they put something in Massachusetts, you have to like spend that time. Their alternative is webcam, which I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's my cup of tea that I try to at least like, hey, this is the only way they actually want us to play the game. It seems right. But as far as that goes, they just kind of use like we'll just play webcam. We have to like they don't make an atmosphere for us to like have a social interaction with other players while also playing on webcam. It's kind of like you're 1 versus 1,000 instead of like your group of people versus, you know, everybody else, right? It's
that's the best part is like after each game you're like, okay, all right guys, we're gonna meet up here, and you're all like gassing each other up and everything. Like that's great. Being in my room for like an entire day, it's just not my cup of tea.
We have to pretend like for my group of people that play online, because we play at a lot of webcam events, right? Because it's just free. Okay. It's just free. We just jump in our Discord. And maybe you see it from time to time. We just jump in the Discord between every single call, and it'll just be like, oh, I lost to this, and we'll make fun of some guy for losing or winning, or it's honestly just a good time, right? Until like round 7, 8, 9, everyone already left and went home and went to something else. Generally, like the later rounds are actually kind of tough because everybody's literally dropped. It feels like, right? Especially if it's a 10-round tournament. If it's a 9-round tournament, people are more likely to stay in those online events. It makes a big difference, but that's what I would suggest to anyone who's trying to play online webcam. Find yourself a group of people that just jump on the call in between games to just either talk about your game or anything, because you have to like almost pretend you're at like a regional in a way in order to get your head actually in the game, because people get so disconnected at home that it's actually a level up if you can stay connected and like you're just locked in on an online event. Like you just have an advantage against people that are literally not locked in at all. Like they're just so disconnected because for some reason they can't understand the difference between well, they actually do understand the difference between a computer screen and a real person versus me, where I have to pretend they're the same thing, right? So
with those webcam events, I'm always just like, I pray I either 10-0 or 0-3 so that I can have the rest of my day.
There's that too. So okay, cool. Because I think we hit a lot of things. I think we had a good conversation. I wanted you guys do a little bit of a shout out again. Zell, your Twitter, your YouTube.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Zell Tweets, or Zell TCG. I'll try to post more, I promise. Or my Twitch channel at Zell at twitch.tv/Zell. And then shout out to my play group in the SoCal region.
Nice, yeah. And then Doctor, your Discord and your friend group.
Yeah, I run, and by I run I mean I made, and my buddy AJ actually administers the off meta Discord, but it's a Discord that's dedicated for like all the meme decks out there. So if you want like a competitive Shanks list, it's not your place. But if you're looking for somebody that's also been grinding out, I don't even know at this point. I'm so exhausted. But if you're looking for somebody that's been grinding out like Black, Yellow, Linlin, or Kuro for a while, and like you want a Kuro community, we have all the weird decks on there. And it's very active, 1,300 strong, very good community. And we also have a bunch of elite Nami players in there as well. Like we have some of the best Nami players from the world in there. So there's, it's a fun side and it's a competitive side. And so I think Keck will, share the link to that Discord in the description. But also, shout out to my gaming crew from Endangered Hobbies. I couldn't have achieved, competitive success without them being like, fine, we'll practice against Nami, I guess, which is hard to get people to do. So, God bless them.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then my little shout out, guys, you're on the channel. You're already liked. You've already subscribed. What else do you need to do, right? Other than join my Patreon. My Patreon has not a lot going for it right now, I'll be honest with you, but I want to put some more exclusive content on there, but it's just more of a thank you for making the content. And let me know, you guys, in the comments, any of your gripes to OP10, what you're excited about, what you're not excited about, anything you want to talk about. And make sure you guys join the Keck Discord, Keck's Corner, and shout out to the greater Northern Utah community, being such a cool group of lads. So see you all in the next podcast. Ciao.